Hi everyone, this is Sean Ismail from the Cloud Ranger, and you are viewing the Microsoft Azure training. Today is the part 5 of the Azure Virtual Networks, and we're going to talk about a very important topic in Microsoft Azure or cloud in general. This is the cross-premises connectivity concepts. Um, Unfortunately, all the stuff we have done so far is important, but most organizations who already have an established infrastructure may not start off that way, or it might not be applicable for you to where you have everything up in your cloud. So most of the organizations, uh, I believe, will start from a hybrid point or a cross-premises point of view where you are going to have some infrastructure that's going to be uh, on premises, which is like your data center or your office, and they will have some sort of connectivity to the cloud, and there will be a hybrid scenario. So this happens to be a very important topic, as well as not only from practical and work point of view, but as well as your exam. So let's get it started. So cross-premises connectivity also is known as the hybrid network connectivity or inter-site connectivity, regardless of whatever uh, term is thrown at this. It will basically mean that there are going to be different sites that are going to be connected. And momentarily, we'll talk about all the topologies that go with that. But in basic, it means that it's connecting from on-premises network to a Azure virtual network. So what we have seen in the past couple of sessions is like how we create virtual networks or VNets in Azure. So what we are trying to establish is actually a connection to a virtual network in Azure from your on-premises infrastructure. So if you are familiar with site-to-site connections, VPN tunnels, this might sound quite familiar to you. And not only this cross-premises connectivity is from your on-premise, it could be from an Azure virtual network to a virtual network. Think about this one. Um, you have your subscription where you have a virtual network and you are connecting to infrastructure to your on-premises network. However, what the second one here, Azure VNet to Azure VNet, means is that you could have multiple subscriptions and you could connect them as if they are two separate sites. Or you might be on the Azure cloud and you are connecting to one of your clients, for example, one of the businesses you serve, or another partner, and you can have both of your VNets connect to each other as if they're like a site to site and create a tunnel between them. So there are three options that are available for cross-premises connections. And these are very important to know because this is where the planning part comes in Azure, uh, based on what you are trying to accomplish when you are doing an inter-site connectivity or a cross-premises connectivity. So the first one is a point-to-site VPN. The second one is a site-to-site VPN. The third one is a private VPN or express route. If you notice that little gap over there for 4 and 5, I left over there because 1, 2, and 3 actually depend on on-premises networks connecting to your Azure networks. But 4 and 5 could be Azure networks to Azure networks. So there might be nothing on premises at all. Or it could be multi-site, means there might be VNets, there might be your on-premises, and everything as well. The other thing you have to know is about the VPN gateways. You may have seen this option already when you have created virtual network, that there's an option over there that actually says, add a gateway. So we have not so far explored that, but we are going to explore that in the sessions that are going to come right now. So all you have to remember is that point to site and site to site both require setting up a VPN gateway. It means you are going to have a VNet and you're going to enable the gateway if you are trying to make a point to site or a site to site. And there are two types of gateways. One is a static routing VPN gateway, and there is a dynamic routing VPN gateway. We are going to get into the details of this in the next slide, but you have to remember what are the two scenarios where you require these gateways and which type of gateways. And this is very important for your exam because it's vital to how your design will be. So the VPN gateways. So let's talk about the static routing VPN. All you have to remember, it's a policy-based VPN concept. So basically, encrypt and encapsulate a subset of traffic flowing through an interface. So what happens is, if you are in your data center on your own premises, so when you want a specific type of traffic to go through a tunnel that you'll be creating for site to site, for example, you want to establish that does this traffic go out just to the internet, or is this traffic going to be called something as an interesting traffic, and this interesting traffic is going to go on the tunnel. So if you are already familiar with VPN tunnels and site-to-site tunnels and things like split ACL, if you're in the Cisco world, or split DNS and things like that, what you have to remember is that this is exactly what it is. You are going to basically create an ACL access control list, or you are going to basically create a policy in your on-premises environment where you say if a specific traffic is directed to a certain direction, is it going to go on the internet or is it going to go over the tunnel? So this is basically something which is defined as a policy based on the kind of device or the edge device you're going to use to create the site-to-site tunnel. Then you have the dynamic routing VPN, which is like basically a route-based VPN. So you create a tunnel interface and you basically say that anything that's going to hit this tunnel is going to take this, anything is going to this tunnel interface is placed into the VPN. So basically uh, you are not segregating the traffic. All you are doing is anything that's directed towards the direction of this interface is going to go on the VPN. So you have to remember for your exam point of view is that multi-site VPN and VNet to VNet, which is Azure Virtual Network to Virtual Network, and point to site, they all require dynamic routing VPN gateways. And you may already figure out that why it might be because multi-site VPN, VNet to VNet, and point to site, they they are not exactly one of those traffics where you have to make a decision because you already know that those traffic, as long as they hit an interface, will hit the VPN. There's no segregation, so there's no other traffic that you require to send to the internet, for example. So anyways, this all will make more sense when we are going to go through the demonstrations for creating those tunnels, but you just have to remember this pretty much for your exams. And these are just the concepts. And the other thing I should have mentioned earlier is that in this session today, we are not really going to go through a demonstration. We're going to just run over all the concepts of the VPN because I want to have a separate session where we will discuss each of these topologies separately and go through an entire demonstration of how do you bring them up together. Okay, so those were the VPN gateways. So let's now talk about the different topologies you have for this cross-premises connectivity. So the first one we want to explore is point to site. So point to site, regardless of its name, is basically something you may already be doing with your organization, where you have a laptop or you have like you are working from home and your systems or network administrator will provide you like a VPN application. So for example, Cisco AnyConnect, or you may have Windows 8.1 has its built-in VPN connection. So they might give you a tool and say that go ahead and use this application, put in your credentials, your server name, and you will be connected to our internal network, and then you will be able to work on your computer as if you're working from your office. So that's the basic concept of VPN, right? I mean, it extends your internal network outside to wherever you are. So technically, as long as you run that application and put in your server and credential, you have extended or tapped into your work network and you can work as if you are sitting in your office. So point to site is exactly that. You are basically at a point wherever it might be a branch office where you have a bunch of desktops and a laptop, or you might be at home, or it might be at a coffee shop, wherever. As long as you have a piece of software that's downloaded and you have put in your credentials, you can connect to your organization, or in our case here, you are connecting to the Azure Virtual Network. So technically, all the virtual machines that you have created on Azure are sitting here, and you are accessing those virtual machines over a point to site tunnel, and you are working with these virtual machines as if you are sitting in the Azure Virtual Network. And it's called point to site because you have multiple points and they all connect to one single site. And here our site is the Azure Virtual Network. And definitely when we go through a demonstration of point to site, we'll discuss more about this, but that's the basic concept of a point to site. Now you have to also remember that one of these users may connect to multiple sites, right? I mean, you could have multiple Azure virtual networks in a single subscription, or you could have multiple subscription and you can connect to any one of them. So even if your cloud actually had, like for example, 3 virtual networks or 4, you will be able to connect to them separately if you have to. Okay, so moving on to the next one, site to site. Some of you who are already a network administrator or administration or system administrator may already know about this, where you may have 2 sites that are physically located in different locations, and you are connecting between these 2 sites to share the resources and make it part of one large network. If you're an end user, you may or may not have noticed this, but if you are already in a network admin role, you probably do this quite often. So basically, for example, you could be somewhere in Toronto and you could be somewhere in California, Los Angeles, and you basically create a tunnel all the way from an edge device on your Toronto end to the edge device in Los Angeles, and that one single VPN tunnel acts as an extension between these 2 sites. So people in Toronto would access resources from Los Angeles without even knowing that it's there, because it will act and feel like one network. Obviously, there are much more details there, like you would have to have an edge device on both ends to make or establish the VPN tunnel. So similarly in Azure, what you can do, and this is going to be the most important topology for you, is because your organization already has everything, the infrastructure and everything in a data center or on premises, and you are maybe just trying to run a couple of virtual machines in Azure, and what you are going to do is you're going to create this site-to-site tunnel to your Azure virtual network and basically add or augment to your infrastructure. And this is the true essence of cloud, guys. Like we are talking about really the main core of Azure virtual network extensibility here. So and that's how cloud is sold, that most of the sales pitch are that it will augment or add to your current infrastructure. So if you have 5 servers that are sitting on site on premises, and for some reason you need another 10 web servers, the easiest thing to do on the cloud is to spin up another 10 web servers. Now, how are these 2 going to talk to each other? What if they're going to share a SQL database in the backend? Well, that's when you establish this tunnel, and those virtual machines sitting in Azure will be directly connecting to your internal resources over that tunnel. So same here with site to site. There is going to be an edge device over here. So you're going to have a Cisco, Juniper, Cisco ASA or router, whatever, that can create a site-to-site tunnel. And all you are doing is creating a tunnel to the cloud virtual network. So you are going to have a gateway here, the gateway we were talking about earlier, which is going to act as if that's your edge device. I must not even say act. It is going to be your edge device. So you're going to create or establish a tunnel between these 2. Users over here will be accessing these virtual machines connected to this VNet in the cloud as if it's already there on premise. And it's a basic site-to-site connectivity. And the virtual machines, for example, if you create a virtual machine over here and you have a tunnel, let's think that we're going to put this virtual machine on the domain. all you have to do is go ahead and join it to the domain. It will go over this tunnel and look for a domain controller on premises and get it. So that's really the basic concept, and this happens to be the most important concept because most organizations go this way because uh, unless you are a new startup or a small organization where you have nothing on premises, you can do everything on the cloud. And you can still do everything on the cloud. But if you have already, established infrastructure and investment on premises, chances are you want to first do this. And this also this topology is also the hybrid, or is the hybrid connectivity that you say that I have stuff on premise and I'm connected to stuff which are on the cloud, so I have a hybrid network. That's what basically hybrid network really means in simple terms. So it's good to remember this, and we'll go through a demo for this as well. Now, this is the most interesting one, VNet to VNet connectivity. This concept extends from a site-to-site connectivity because you know what? End of the day, this cloud with a virtual network 1 and this cloud with a virtual network 2 are nothing but two sites. So it's almost similar to this topology, except that your on-premises is now also a cloud. Now, a couple of things you have to remember here. A cloud to cloud, or this is called a VNet to VNet connectivity or VNet to VNet tunnel or whatever, this could be in the same subscription. So you might have a virtual network, and the location for this virtual network, for example, you have put US East. And for whatever replication, geo-replication, or disaster recovery, you create another virtual network, which is in a totally different location or data center somewhere, uh, I don't know, somewhere in like Hong Kong or Australia. So what will happen is that within your same account or same subscriptions, you may have virtual machines that are located in US East on the US East virtual network. And here, for example, it's in Australia. So you have these virtual machines in the Australian data center and the cloud network, the virtual network in the Australian data center as well. So what just happened here? You basically created a totally high availability failed over scenario, disaster recovery scenario, where you have virtual machines in completely two different continents, one in North America and one in Australia. So how do you connect between this? VNet and VNet will only connect when you actually put them with a gateway and create the tunnel between them. So you may have a virtual machine running here in VNet 1 in North America here, and all the data that's written, for example, to this virtual machine will go over this tunnel all the way to Australia in VNet 2 and be stored in a virtual machine there. And I'm talking about very simplistic terms here, but that's the basic idea to give you an option to do a VNet to VNet connectivity or a site to site with respect to VNet. Not only that, this is the most other important thing. How about this VNet 1 was your organization and this VNet 2 is a totally separate organization. It does not have to be on the same subscription. It even does not have to be on the same account. Because as far as your VNet is concerned and its gateway is concerned, as long as you give this gateway's information to this gateway, they can connect with each other. So it doesn't matter where and who this other VNet 2 is. It could be a totally different organization, and you guys are creating a tunnel between yourself for whatever business to business logic or something you're trying to accomplish doing that. So we will go over details on this as well. And this is a demo. We'll go hands-on. So we will be creating one. You could practice this on one single subscription, creating two virtual networks, or you could completely, for just the kicks, create another trial subscription and try to do this and do it how you do this in a production environment. Okay, this is the multi-site VPN topology, and this happens to bring everything together and makes the most interesting of them all. So you have a combination of on-premise sites as well as cloud virtual networks. And with a multi-site VPN topology, basically everybody is connected to everybody. So there's no single point of failure. And this does not have to be your organization. This could be, so for example, this is maybe your on-premise and you have your virtual network here as well. And I should have put Cloud VNet 1 over here. Looks like there's a typo. But anyways, so let's assume that this is your organization and this part is some other organization. So you could do that, or this could be completely your organization, and you could just be one site and everybody else could be everything. So this is a crossover with everything together. It's a VNet to VNet, as you can see over here. This is a site to site, VNet to VNet. This is a site to site. This is a site to your VNet, site to your VNet. So this is a very interesting concept where everybody connects together and they will talk to each other as if it's one large network. And this is also something that we'll be going through a demonstration to make this as clear as possible. Okay, so this happens to be a very short summary of the cross-premises or the hybrid connectivity, network connectivity concepts. I just wanted to make sure that we are on board with understanding the basics before we jump into the theory. Jump into the demonstration. This happens to be a very important topic for your exam. You have to remember the different topologies and their limitations. You have to remember if they require a gateway or not, and if they do, what kind of gateway do they require. And so far by now, you might have understood that all of these endpoints will be a gateway, so most of them will require a gateway. It's just that you have to remember it's going to be a static routing gateway or not, or a dynamic routing gateway. You have to also remember the limitations. So, for example, the limitation comes in with the gateway bandwidth, for example. We can talk about this more when we're doing the demonstration, but then you can have a certain amount of tunnels, total amount of bandwidth, and stuff like that. The only one thing I left out of this session really was the express route, because there's no way for me to actually provide a demonstration on an express route. But for your production, it might be one of the most vital part, because your organization might think of using express route to do whatever they're trying to accomplish. Unfortunately, creating an express route is not something you'll be able to do from your home. Because it requires a significant amount of investment, and not only that, but setup. So basically, your express route, and I'm sorry to do this at the end of the session, but I just did not want to get into it so much because I won't be able to demonstrate this. And I said that I want to only go over things that I can really demonstrate to you and go practical for setting up. But since this, you might be viewing this totally for just an exam point of view, then it is very important for you to learn on the exam. So express route is basically your private virtual private network. So it's a private VPN. So rather than using a site to site or point to site and go over the internet, you'll have a dedicated VPN connectivity. I'm not going to say tunnel because a tunnel is dedicated, but this is going to be dedicated. So something like an MPLS, something like you'd be using something like BGP to make the connections happen. So you'll have a very dedicated bandwidth to one of the Azure data centers, which will be connected to your virtual network. So you can only imagine the possibilities and the kind of power you might have that you are actually partnering with one of the Azure data center network connectivity there. So you could have speed up to 10 gigabits per second, which is insane for having the connection between you and the Azure data center or your virtual network. This may be something if you're a very large organization and you require that kind of bandwidth. Maybe you are transferring large video content or media and things like that. That might be an option you may be able to go to. So there are ISPs who are actually providing this for you. So if you are interested in something like an express route, you have to let your ISP know that I want to do something like that, and if they are a provider who can connect to Azure, because to my knowledge, not every ISP can do that for you. So that's something you'll need to look into. But as you can imagine, since I won't be able to do all this from my lab setup here, or you may not be able to do this from your home, it's not something that we'll be able to do hands-on, but definitely important for exam. Anyway, so that concludes our this session. Thank you for viewing. And as usual, our training sites is at cloudranger.net/Azure-training. Our YouTube channel is Cloud Ranger Network. Twitter is at Cloud Ranger Blog. We're on Google Plus, as well as you can email me at sean@cloudranger.net. Thank you.